Hi, John. It's very nice to meet you, and thank you very much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Joseph.
Thank you again, John, for taking the time to be here. It's great to have you. John, before we dive in, can you tell me a bit about yourself, how you found carnivore, how did it all start for you?
Okay, I'll try to make it not too long-winded. I'm sick. I'll be 61 years old in less than a month. Next month is my birthday. Was born in a suburb of Philadelphia. I'm kind of near you, Pennsylvania, and ate the standard American diet most of my life, and was getting a little pudgy as I got into my late 20s and 30s and 40s. I was really putting on the weight, as many Americans do when we eat a lot of carbohydrates and starch, and the standard diet of pizza and cereal, and I was a sugar addict, lots of candy and cake and junk food. Uh, anyway, I think I was self-soothing with that, and I would eat for emotional reasons a lot of the time too. A lot of people do that. I became a middle school teacher and taught sixth, seventh, and eighth grade students in public middle school in Maryland, and then I moved down to Florida and started teaching down there in 2001. I just retired a few years ago, and let's see, I had been on and off diets to try to, control my weight. Had started getting lower back pains and other things were creeping into my life that I associated with old age. At the time, I was in my 50s, and it's supposed to have getting gray. It's going to happen. But then I tried a diet I had never heard of before called the ketogenic diet, something unlike any of the other diets before. The other diets were restrictive. You count your calories, you eat less, basically starve yourself. And I lost weight on those diets. And then I put it all back on again when the diet was over. And I always added a little bit more weight to that because I went back to the same food. But this one was different. I learned something I didn't learn before. I didn't know about macronutrients. All I knew was eat from the food pyramid. Make sure you have a balance of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, meats, plants, everything. And the My Plate told me what percentage, and I didn't know. But when I started learning about the ketogenic diet, this is about 8 years ago, I learned that there were three macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbs. I mean, I heard of those words before, but I never realized it was that simple. And that if you lower your total carbohydrate intake to below 20 total grams a day, make sure you have moderate protein and very high, which is different, very high healthy fat, you will go into eventually a state of ketosis where your body is using fatty acids and ketones for energy, and I could burn the fat off and get my energy from there instead of sugar and carbs. So it worked for me. I lost my needed 35 pounds of body fat pretty fast within a couple of months. Started feeling great, sleeping better, just loving this way of eating. But I was still, doing all the plants. I was doing a lot of vegetables and some berries because I was allowed to on the ketogenic diet. About a year in, I had to go to the hospital because I got a kidney stone. And I went down that rabbit hole and started realizing what that was. It was a calcium oxalate kidney stone, and all of the oxalates I ate in my life. And then I overdid the oxalates when I went on keto because they were low carb. I can have all the low carb anything that I wanted as long as I stayed between 20 total grams. And that included spinach. I ate a lot of raw spinach salads. I ate a lot of almonds, and I made keto desserts with almond flour, chia seeds, cinnamon, turmeric, black pepper. I didn't realize it at the time, but I really gave myself a lot of oxalates. And my body said it was time to dump, and they formed a stone. And it was terrible experience. So I had to learn from scratch, what is an oxalate? No one taught me. I didn't know anything about it. So I learned that I needed to take out the high oxalate foods. And so I went Ketovore, which is carnivore with just a few vegetables. And I did that for a couple of years. And mostly so I don't get another kidney stone. But then along the path, I realized it's not just about keeping out the oxalates, it's about keeping out the lectins and the phytates and the saponins and the goitrogens and the cyanide. I didn't realize that there were other plant toxins. Again, no one taught me. It wasn't in any of my education growing up. I didn't know any. It's not on any of the food labels. You pick up a box or a package, it doesn't say any plant toxins on any of those. So I went carnivore. I watched some influencers and I realized I'm almost there doing Ketovore. Let me just take out the last little bit of avocado and broccoli and asparagus that I was eating on Ketovore. And I went carnivore 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. I feel that much better. My sleep is that much better. My energy is that much better. And my game has been stepped up because I'm now a carnivore. And I have fine-tuned it and tweaked it over the 3 years. I've been playing around with dairy and coffee and different things and learning what my body tolerates and how my body functions with, a whole bunch of chicken and pork and without a whole bunch of chicken and pork. So I'm playing around within the carnivore umbrella and tweaking and playing with things and learning so much about myself and realizing that everybody's body reacts differently based on genetics and pre-existing conditions already. So that's where I am today. I am a carnivore. I've tweaked my diet. I feel amazing. I learned so much along the way. And being a teacher and retired, I wrote a few books, wrote a few articles. I started my YouTube page. I do interviews. I give interviews. And so I'm in this space now because it has so changed my life for the better. And I can't, being a teacher, I have to share my knowledge. I'm an educator. I can't just do it for me and walk around the world and not tell other people. So that's why I share not just my story, other people's stories, and I share knowledge constantly. And I get a lot of feedback from people who have questions, just like I had questions. So now I feel confident enough to answer some of those questions and help people. So I hope that wasn't too long.
That's awesome, John. Your journey is actually very good because it's gradual process, and how you're already on keto and then ketovore and then carnivore. I think that is a very good transition. It's not like instantaneous where you just jump into any diet. So I think that's pretty awesome. John, I just wanted to ask about the research that you put into this, like before you jump in from ketovore to carnivore, because I know you're already 3 years carnivore now, and you mentioned that you saw some influencers and you're almost there, basically, right? Who were those influencers that you first saw, and how long did you do your research before jumping in? Was it like couple of weeks or maybe just days? But since I'm so close, maybe I'll just do it in 3 days or so. Yeah.
When you say do it, you mean go to carnivore from ketovore? Is that what your question? Well, let me start from the beginning. The very, very first influencer that I saw, I don't follow anymore. And he's gone in kind of a different direction. And his name was Thomas DeLauer. All right. Very muscular, fit, good-looking guy, stood in front of a whiteboard and explained in a teaching kind of fashion what the ketogenic diet is, what foods, why, what the macronutrients were. And the whole thing was an education to me. So I started watching his videos for a while. And you know how YouTube is. They suggest videos and other things pop up. So that led me to Dr. Ken Berry. A lot of people end up with Dr. Berry and his wife, Nisha. And I watched their Monday Night Lives and asked questions. I joined his his group for a while. I'm not a member of it anymore, but I got deeper and got to ask some very specific questions. Spoke with the man, met him in person in Orlando. And then Dr. Anthony Chaffee, who is the plant-free MD. He lives in Perth, Australia. He's one of my number one go-tos now because he is a strict carnivore and explains why that works for him. And it rings a lot of bells for me. It makes a lot of sense to me. So a lot of my knowledge comes from Dr. Berry, Dr. Chaffee, Professor Ben Bickman, another one of my heroes. The man is so articulate. What a professor. What a teacher. If I could be 1/100th the teacher that Professor Bickman is, I would be honored. Dr. Sean Baker, I just did an interview with him. I met him. I met all these guys in person, by the way. This is. I got to go to a few symposiums and Hack Your Health and Low Carb USA events, and these speakers were there and they were approachable. I got to go up and shake their hand. Professor Bickman signed my book, his book for me. Dr. Chaffee, I spoke with he and his now wife. At the time, they were just boyfriend girlfriend. It's really it's not just learning from these people. I get to meet them in person and ask further questions. I interviewed Sally K. Norton. Didn't meet her in person. I almost did. But her book, Toxic Superfoods, is one of my main research sources for my book on Beyond Oxalates. So, and then Monique Attinger, she's another resource. I have so many I haven't even mentioned. And then I read a lot of books. I've read so many different either articles or books, and I'm constantly, it never ends. I was just on a vacation. I was on a cruise and I had another book. I read an entire book about the lipoprotein system and cholesterol in our body. It was very, very technical, but I geeked out on that with my days at sea, and I really enjoyed that book. So I'm always learning and adding to my knowledge base so that when somebody asks me a question, if I don't know the answer, I can go find it.
That's awesome. I feel like you've met so many people in this space. That's probably my next goal. I want to pretty much meet and talk to people like you. I feel like that's how I found your channel also. I feel like I need to talk to him. He's so well spoken. The way he speaks, his content is just awesome. Yeah.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask you, let me share this first, because when I was doing my research with Carnivore, there was some specific things. I know you talked about plants, about the toxins, lectins, cyanide. I think my concern, in the research, was the oxalate dumping. I was worried, trying to wrap my head. Am I gonna die in the process before I actually get the benefit of doing Carnivore first? Were there any specific thing that you're researching Carnivore before doing it, like with me, the oxalate dumping? What about for you? Is there anything specific?
You're asking about the dumping of oxalates. We collect them. We all do. Everyone who eats a standard diet, we're going to have plants in our diet. There's grains, nuts, seeds, corn, and the standard diet has all of this in it, even if it's refined. Or ultra processed. Most ultra processed food is corn and wheat and sugar and seed oil, and in many different colors and packages and combinations. That's ultra processed food mixed with a little bit of this and that. And so we're taking in these microscopic shards of glass type substances that were in the plants, oxalates. The plants have them as defense mechanisms, and they also have them to help themselves grow. They're shiny. They reflect and refract the light for photosynthesis within their own cells, for chlorophyll. It's really interesting. And they also are very super negatively charged, not just negatively charged, but they're very negatively charged. And that attracts them to calcium. and magnesium and zinc and iron, and they draw the minerals out of the soil for the plant. It's for the plant and the plant's protection. But because they're so sharp, the little insects that try to eat the plant hurt their little mouths, and it breaks open and they're deterred from eating them. But because they're also so microscopic, we don't notice them. So when we eat dark chocolate, a lot of it, we're eating raw spinach salads or smoothies, we don't realize that we're ingesting all of this into our system, and it's being drawn to our magnesium and the calcium within our own body. It's creating malabsorption of the necessary minerals that we need. And they can also just collect in our joints, in between our bones. And they're known for collecting in the nephrons of the kidney. And they can, bind to calcium and create a stone. The stone grows, or multiple stones grow. And then when they have to move, they have to get out of the kidney and go through the ureter, into the bladder, out the urethra, whether male or female. That's the excruciating pain, because as they're moving, they're sharp, they're jagged. I picked mine out of the toilet. I passed mine when I got home from the hospital, reached in, took it back to have it analyzed, and it was calcium oxalate. And if you look at it really close, it's jagged. That thing was ripping me and tearing me from the inside as it was moving. And that, of course, causes inflammation. And then the body senses inflammation and sends all the white blood cells. And it's a cascade of emergency that happens in the body when oxalates are trying to dump out of the body. So this suggestion is, if you have a lot of oxalates that you have stored, if you're starting to experience dumping symptoms, whether it's a kidney stone, or it's coming, or a rash on the skin, or I had another one that came out of my eyelid a couple months after my kidney stone. It irritated this eye like I can't tell you. Some people get very achy, like they're getting the flu when they're dumping. If it's very severe, the suggestion by Sally K. Norton and others is to actually slow the dumping process down. Tell the body that a little bit more oxalate's actually coming in, so you can slow the dumping down. So if you drink a little bit of black tea or eat a little tiny bit of dark chocolate, the body slows the dumping down, so it comes out a lot slower, and you don't end up in the hospital. With some people, it's really bad. Some people have died from oxalate toxicity because they juice a lot. Who was that actor? The one who has two other brothers. I think they're from Australia. He ended up in the hospital because he did all these juice cleanses, and he had these gigantic kidney stones that almost killed him. They had to surgically remove them from him because they couldn't move. I know I went off topic here, but my answer to your question is, if you're worried about oxalates, is to not stop your diet cold turkey. It's to slowly take out the oxalates. Instead of the high oxalate foods, have the lower oxalate foods for a year or 6 months and slowly take them out, so the body senses this and slowly dumps them. You're going to still have dumping, but it won't hurt as much. I'm on my 8th year of doing this, and I am still dumping oxalates. How do I know? Every 3 months or so, I get a flu-like symptom, and I don't have the flu. I just feel toxic or achy for 2 days. And now I know what it is, and it goes away. It takes some people, it takes up to 10 years to dump all these oxalates that we've accumulated over a lifetime. Did that answer your question, or did I go over the question?
I think you did. Right. Because pretty much I made some notes down, and
okay.
I think some inner thoughts and questions in my head, like just popping, like here and there. Because I know I've heard many carnivores, I've asked them, like, have you experienced oxalate dumping? Like, they would say, I think some of the beginners would say, no, I have not experienced anything like that. I think some people refer to it as keto flu. And then I think I've
Well,
heard in the beginning of my research that they say you can, there's a chance you might experience it later down the years. And like you said, it's been like 8 years and you're still continually dumping, right? Right. And it's not like
it's
a
smaller. It's
one
much
whole
smaller than,
dump.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I hear that, I'm just like curious, like, is it like different for, each body to experience this in a different way? Or is there like because they are doing it cold turkey that they're going to experience it faster,
It's very individual, and everybody's experience is unique to their physiology and what they've gone through in their life. Some people, there are some women, it's coming out of their breast, their nipples. That's how bad it is for them. Some people like me, it comes out of the eyes. That's very common to have eye irritation. Some people get a rash. They can't explain the rash, and then they get like their reading glasses. They look at it and they see this little gritty stuff coming out of their skin, and that's the oxalates. We kidney stones are what is recognized by the medical establishment and oxalates, but they're not talking about the other ways that they dump. You mentioned that some people call that the keto flu. That flu-like symptom could be related to oxalate dumping, but it's also electrolyte deficiency. When you first go low carb, you're flushing out your electrolytes and you're feeling achy because you're deficient in magnesium, sodium, and potassium, and that gives you a headache and body aches, a flu-like symptom. That's what the keto flu usually is, but it could also be oxalate dumping. So my suggestion, and Professor Bart Kay, if you know who he is, he very strongly recommends that this is a very gradual transition because your body has to adjust and adapt. If you do it cold turkey, you're going to have electrolytes that need to be replenished, and you could be oxalate dumping. And a lot of people, that's the way they're wired. I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump in the pool and get it over with. I'm going to just go cold turkey because that's the way they do things. And a lot of those people, after the 5th or 6th day or 10th day, they quit because it's too painful. It hurts. So we recommend that you do it gradually. Think about a person who's getting off of heroin, a person who's a major drug addict. They go cold turkey. They almost die. Right? The sweats, the DTs, it's a terrible withdrawal episode that they have to go through. But if they were to step down, and they have clinics for drug users like that, methadone clinics, you step down and do something less potent, very slowly over time, so your body adjusts. It's a similar concept. If you're eating this way your whole life, back off of it very, very slowly. And it makes it so much easier, and it will be more sustainable because then you'll buy into it. You adapt and adjust because you're doing it. You're changing your routine slowly throughout the weeks and the months, and it becomes your new reality. Because most people who do something cold turkey, it's a fad. They start it, they stop it, and they go off of it, like a diet. If you want to talk there, a lot of people, treat keto or carnivore like a diet, and then they fail at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, they treat it like a like a short-term thing and then move
Yeah.
on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. John, looking back at the start of your carnivore journey, were there any mistakes for you, and did you learn anything from them?
Oh boy, good question. Everybody makes mistakes, and I made my mistakes. I certainly did. All right, when I first started keto, I didn't know about seed oils. I just knew lower the carbs, eat a lot of healthy fat. So I was not doing the no seed oils, which I didn't realize that they're toxic and inflammatory. That's what was causing my lower back pain all my life, was the inflammation. So that can be cut out immediately. You don't have to wean off of that. You cut out the seed oils and replace that with butter and beef tallow, ghee. If you want to do chicken schmaltz, pork lard, it's so healthy. And, the animal fats have the vitamins and the minerals embedded in the fat as well. Seed oils are absent all of that. It's terrible. Another mistake that I did was not eating enough fat. I was fat phobic and trained to be that way my whole life from society, and be afraid. Too much fat. Fat makes you fat. High cholesterol, clogging arteries, all the myths that has been ingrained in us constantly, everywhere, from every angle, every direction. We are taught that fat is bad. And so even when I learned about the 3 macronutrients and I was supposed to have high healthy fat, I wasn't having still enough fat. So I got constipated. All right. That's the main reason for constipation. Anybody who has that question, help me, I'm constipated, when I started this diet. And it's almost always a fat issue. We're not eating enough fat. So the fat lubricates the movement. The fat, when you have just a little bit too much fat, you don't have enough bile to break it down so it comes out. That gives you a nicer bowel movement. Too much fat, you go the other way, you have diarrhea. So you have to find your healthy bowel movement with the amount of fat that you eat. That was my biggest mistake. I didn't eat enough fat for years. So what was I doing? I'm like, I'm going to take magnesium citrate to help me go to the bathroom. And that's what I did for a few months. Then I learned from a few doctors, add more salt, because salt draws water into the colon, which makes a more moist bowel movement, which is true. So I salted more, but I still didn't solve the problem because I was still not eating fat. So I always have more fat than I used to. So that's the big mistake I learned, and I learned it. You learn the hard way, right? You learn through personal experience.
Yeah, wow. I feel like I completely relate with you with the seed oils and the fat. I think in the beginning I was also cooking with seed oils. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
already improving, but not to the optimal improvement that I was looking for. And then when I learned about the seed oils, and then that's when actually things got better because I removed them. Yeah. Um, John, so what was your favorite food back then? I know you mentioned about pizza. You were eating for emotions before, and sweets. Did you have anything specific?
Oh, gosh. Fudge, chocolate, M&Ms, Snickers. Halloween, I would sit there and eat 4 or 5 candy bars at a time. I was a school teacher, so Christmas time, the kids would give me all the candy gifts. I would eat them all during the day while I was teaching. I just got a lot of dopamine hits, and it was like a drug. I just love sugar. I was not that much of a bread and rice person, as some people are. They love their bread. Giving up wheat was nothing to me. It was like, who cares? But sugar, yeah, was the big one. I wanted everything sweet. I would eat the meal so that I could get to the dessert. I knew that ice cream was waiting for me in the freezer, so I just hurry up and eat my supposed healthy choice microwave TV dinner meal so I can get to the bowl of ice cream, which I put magic shell on, and I added M&Ms, and I just crimpled cookies on it. I mean, I'm a drug addict when it comes to sugar. So I abstain 100% now. I haven't had any of that in 8 years, and I don't miss it. I walk through the bakery section of my store to get to the meat, and I see and smell it all, but I see it through a different lens now. All right, that stuff is like a drug, like a heroin, like cigarettes. I'm not going to touch it ever again. The answer is always no and never, and that makes it easy for me.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. Back then I had so many assumptions what was causing my health issues, right? But they're proven wrong now after finding out carnivore. Some things, because I had some skin issues, so I'm thinking maybe I'm just dirty, or maybe it's the stress, maybe the back pain is causing me, to maybe I'm working too hard, or maybe I'm overworking out. Did you had assumptions what was triggering your health issues before finding out carnivore?
Oh, absolutely. My biggest problem was my lower back pain, which I had since my mid 20s, and it didn't stop until I went low carb and carnivore. Um, and I thought I had x-rays. I went to the chiropractor. I took ibuprofen and Tylenol and back pain medicine, and I tried everything. It would come and go, the back pain. And when it was here, it was bad. When I was at school, I had to roll around in a chair because I couldn't stand up. I couldn't bend down. It was so painful. And I thought that I had pulled. I had a disc rupture. I mean, I just never had a definitive answer. I was this close to inquiring about surgery. That's how bad it was. And then it disappeared when I went carnivore, and actually when I went ketovore and keto. And then I had an aha moment. Oh my gosh, I'm learning about inflammation in the body. I'm learning about what causes inappropriate inflammation, too much inflammation. We all have it. We're all supposed to have a little bit of inflammation to help us heal. But I was getting all the seed oils. I was eating all these carbohydrates. And that was, in my body, my weakest link is my lower back. And so that's where it landed. I haven't had a problem since. It's like a miracle cure. If nothing else ever improved, just not having that pain is worth living the rest of my life. Anybody
Wow,
who's ever
that's
been
really
in
cool.
pain understands what pain is. It consumes you, pain. You can't think or focus or be the best that you can be when you have this constant pain going on. So, my gosh, I also have atrial fibrillation. I have AFib. It's called paroxysmal atrial fibrillation. Paroxysmal means it comes and it goes. And AFib is when the atrium is the top part of the heart. The ventricular is the bottom part. The top part beats out of rhythm with the bottom part. So it's beating 150 beats per minute, and the bottom is not keeping up. And so the blood is pooling. It's very dangerous. I could get a stroke. Very, very dangerous. So I was on medicines, 2 medicines for a few years for that, to keep the heart rate in sinus rhythm and keep it flowing. And it had a whole bunch of side effects, these medicines. And when I changed my diet, I slowly took myself off the medicines, and I never went into, I want to say never, but I rarely went into an AFib episode. And I can't tell you the last time I had one. And I'm on no medicine. So there's something to eating the proper human diet and nourishing your body properly that's affecting my heart muscle in a positive way, for the healing of my heart muscle. So I mentioned my lower back. I mentioned my heart. 2 biggies for me. I could have had a stroke. I could have died. I could have been in everlasting pain from my lower back in a wheelchair. And all that's gone because I'm eating foods that my body recognizes, and I'm not eating the foods that my body has to detox and look at as foreign, like an oxalate or a lectin or a phytate or seed oils. So it's like epiphanies all over the place for me. I'm so excited to share this. I want other people to know. And then I hear other people's stories, that they have all different stories of how they're healing. I know people with multiple sclerosis and cancer, all these issues that have improved or disappeared just by eating right and taking out the bad stuff and exercising and getting good sleep and all that other stuff. So that's why I'm here, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, those
Yeah.
stories is what I gravitated to, especially in the beginning, while I'm doing some technical research, and then but let me listen to the story first. So, yeah. John, so this question I want to ask, have you ever done something unconventional within the carnivore framework? Let me explain this. I know some people in the carnivore space, they said that they don't, they barely take a shower. They probably take a shower like once a week. Some people don't brush their teeth, or, some people just eat like a raw primal. Or have you done, you might not even consider it like unconventional, but like in a sense, like a different from what other
Hmm.
carnivores. Have you done something different?
All right, I do shower pretty regular. I go to the gym, I work out, I sweat, so and I meet people, so I don't want to smell. So I shower, I bathe. I use beef tallow soap. I don't want any of the fragrance or any of the chemicals, and I just use a bar of soap for my beard and my head and my body. I use non-aluminum deodorant. I don't use antiperspirant. Um, Same thing with hand soap and everything. I cut out the aluminum foil. I don't have plastic in my kitchen. All the little things I'm trying to clean up. I drink reverse osmosis water. I have a filter under my sink. Something unconventional. I do brush my teeth twice a day. I also use a water pick and I floss. That's important. Mechanical cleaning is important. But again, I don't get a lot of plaque because I don't eat I don't eat any sugar. So that's important. Unconventional. What do I do that would be considered unconventional and crazy? Well, all right. This may sound weird to some people. I just did it this morning. All right. I ran out of my beef tallow that I rub on my head and in my beard. All right. And on my tattoos on my arm, right, for my skin. And it's just beef tallow. It's rendered beef fat that I liquefy and solidify. And it has no odor. It's odorless. And I ran out. I just rendered some more, and it's in the refrigerator solidifying. And I put it in my. So that's something I do that a lot of people say. You put what on your skin? You rub beef fat all over you? And I'm like, yeah, I rub beef fat, and my skin has never looked better and healthier. And so there's something. I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear, but that's about the strangest thing I do. To some people, that's strange.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, John, so what does a typical day of eating look like for you now? Do you keep it pretty consistent, or do you switch things up? Maybe you can walk me through what you eat now.
Okay. It's a variety of ruminant meats, fish, and eggs. I don't eat a lot of pork anymore. A little bit of bacon, maybe once a month. I don't eat a lot of bacon. I love bacon. I would love to have it every day, but I also know it's going to raise my omega-6 to 3 ratio, and I want to keep my inflammation low for my lower back. I want to keep my lower back, in remission. I don't want to get that hurting again. So I don't eat a lot of chicken anymore. I used to do a lot of chicken wings. I cut out the chicken because of omega-6. It's fine though. I'm not telling other people to do that. It's what works for me. Today, for example, my first meal of the day was at 11 o'clock, and we had leftover ribeye from last night. I always make more, and it was in the refrigerator, so I cut that up. I threw 5 pasture-raised eggs in a cast iron pan. I threw 3 of the egg whites out. I like more of the yolks. Egg whites are mostly water anyway, a little bit of protein. And I like them sunny side up so that when I dump them on top of my meat, whether it's ground beef or leftover ribeye, the yolks break into the meat. I salt to taste. I eat that until I'm comfortably stuffed. And it is the most satisfying meal in the world is creamy egg yolks that break into meat. I'm good for the rest of my life if that's all I ever ate. But I have from time to time wild-caught sockeye salmon that I buy, and I cut them into portions, and I like them rare to raw in the middle, so they're kind of sashimi-like, and I sear them on the inside and outside. And I use beef tallow for everything, or butter. But I've been doing more beef tallow than butter. I cover the pan with beef tallow so it's spitting up all over the place. And then I throw my meats and my eggs and my fish so that, you got to do a lot of cleanup afterwards. But man, it's good. Sometimes I do shrimp, wild caught shrimp. that I clean in the sink and take the shells off, and I brown them in butter, or sometimes I'll do bacon fat because they're really good in bacon fat. And let's see, I cut out the cheese and the dairy recently, which has been a game changer for me because my skin just looked clearer and I lost a little more body fat that way. But I know I can always put it back in if I want. My favorite cheese was goat cheese, creamy goat cheese. I would mix that into my ground beef. It's just heaven, or in my eggs. For dinner tonight, we're going to have on the Traeger grill. It's out right now in my yard. My Traeger's running. We started it at 10:30 this morning. We're having beef ribs, all right, and they're going to be ready by 5 o'clock, 5:30 tonight. All off the bone, amazing beef ribs. I could go through an hour explaining to you how I make them, but I have how-to videos. You can check them out in my YouTube. What are some other things we do? Picanha is fantastic. We smoke it slowly on the Traeger, or a standing rib roast or a prime rib. When they're on sale, we buy a bunch of them, put them in the freezer. We cook that on the Traeger grill slowly, so it gets a smoky flavor. I like my meats black and blue, which is seared on the outside and rare on the inside, almost raw. So when you cut it, it looks like a piece of sashimi. And then I have a piece of cold butter on the plate. I learned this from my friend Peter, who lives here in the same city I do. His name's Papa Carnivore. He taught me this, and I'm so grateful to him. He says, take cold butter, hard cold butter, don't melt it. Put it in the plate next to your meat. Take your fork and get a little scoop of hard butter and take a piece of your meat and put them in your mouth together. That creamy butter starts to melt at the same time you're chewing the meat. It's heaven. It's just another way to eat your meat. It's absolutely delicious. What else do we have? Just different. I have sardines in a can and packed in water. I have a couple a week, kind of as a snack between my lunch and my dinner. I'll have sardines right out of the can. I drink the water. Delicious. I've cod liver, which is in cans. Great source of vitamin A. I do that maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. I think it's important that we get as much of a head to toe, nose to tail carnivore. So you're not just eating beef only. You're trying to eat from different animals. Lamb is another one of my favorites. Lamb shoulder is pretty cheap. Steaks, I put them on my, it's called a bighorn grill, where the flames shoot down from the top like a steakhouse. I have that grill as well. So I've invested in more cooking utensils and cooking equipment since I became carnivore too. It's not just my cast iron and my grill. I got all this other stuff I bought because I'm learning how to become a really good carnivore cook, which is what happens when you're carnivore for a while. You learn and watch different ways to make the food and to make it better. And I'm getting really good at making my meats. I don't mess up anymore like I did when I first started, and I overcooked something or I ruined something, all part of the learning process. So lamb, I don't do lamb. I do lamb loins, lamb shoulder. There's just so many things you could do. Chuck eyes are the poor man's ribeye. If you can find chuck eyes, they're very, very cheap, and they're just like a ribeye, and they're just so tender and succulent. So I could probably go on, but I'll stop there. A lot of food.
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting hungry listening to you when you talk about
I like talking about
fish,
it.
sashimi, and then the grill. Yeah. John, what is the hardest thing about being carnivore for you? Some examples for me have been the social gatherings with family and friends who are non-carnivore, but I haven't really gone to gatherings lately. But also the travel, scouting foods, where the location you're going, and the cravings that took me a while, like over a year, to get it out of my system. But what about for you? What's the hardest thing about being carnivore?
Nothing is now, but when I was starting Ketovore Carnivore, being around people, it was tricky because I felt that they wanted to know why I was eating my way, and they really weren't. If they're going to ask, I would answer, but I was uncomfortable eating only my foods and not their foods in a gathering. I'm not anymore. Christmas parties or whatever. It's very easy for me because the longer you do it, the more it becomes part of who and what you are. And it's not just, again, it's not a diet. It's not just something I'm doing. It's very simple. So, and I've been to many gatherings and many meetings. So when you go through them, that becomes normal, how you eat. So, all right, it's a birthday party. Everybody's singing happy birthday, and I have a plate of birthday cake, and I take it and I hold it, and I have the fork, and we're all holding it and talking. And at one point I go put it down. No one knows I didn't eat the cake. You don't have to make a big deal about it. I'm the guy that goes around and takes all the pictures for people. I keep myself busy. It's just a no-brainer for me now, but it did take a little bit of time to go through it. We go on a lot of cruises living in South Florida. I just got off of a cruise, and I've done several cruises this way. I have a discussion with the dining room manager the first day. I give them a card that says I'm allergic to vegetable oil. Here's all the oils I cannot have. You have to use butter or beef tallow. And then I have to pre-order the next night's dinner. Every day, I'm ordering one day ahead so they can make my meal ahead of time, meaning everything that they cook is in seed oil. Everything. Even the bacon they drop in a vat of peanut oil. Believe it or not, they don't just bake it. I learned. So I have to tell them. And so I eat like a king on a cruise ship. I had lobster, I had escargots, I had shrimp, I had, oh my gosh, I had ribeyes and I have wonderful food, and I know it was seed oil free because they made it for me special, and they will do that for you. And then at the buffets, I know what to pick. I'm in control. I go to the carving station, the lunch meats and whatever, the shrimp. It's not hard for me anymore. What is a little sad, this to me is not hard, but it's sad, is when I go out to lunch or dinner with a group of people. I think they feel bad for me. I don't know why. They have like, oh, he can't eat this, or he can't enjoy what we enjoy. And they think that. But I have no problems with it. I know when I'm ordering a hamburger, I'm ordering a steak, I'm having a discussion with the server. I'm paying double because I have to get two because that's all I'm eating. I'm not eating the bread and the salad and the potatoes and all the crap and the vegetables. So I normally order 2 entrees and I have to pay double, but that's part of, what I am. I want to eat, or I'll eat before I go, so that I can just order one little portion. So nowadays, nothing's hard. Nothing's hard. My life is easy. It's cheaper. I spend less money on groceries than I ever did before, believe it or not. And I've never felt healthier. And my life is not centered around food anymore, even though I just talked about it like it was. I don't fixate and focus on my next meal as a dopamine hit anymore. It's just, I have to eat. I have to nourish myself. All right, get hungry. Different. It's a different feeling.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I feel like I relate to that story a lot. You mentioned when you go out with a group of friends and then someone mentions, oh, you can't eat that. Yeah. And then they feel bad for you. I had a similar experience like that, but I don't feel bad anymore, but yeah. John, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore in your life, what one word would you describe it, and tell me why?
Optimization. One of the phrases that I say sometimes at the end of my videos is, when you eat the proper human diet, you become the optimized version of yourself. So this has optimized me. I am the best version of myself that I can be now. Nothing's holding me back. I don't have any impurities or plant toxins. I don't have any aches or pains anymore. My heart's pumping properly. I'm optimized. My brain, I mean, I never thought I could write a book. I'm on my 4th book now. I'm writing my 4th book now, publishing it. I never thought I could be so clear of thought and express myself in such a succinct way. And ketones and fatty acids and protein and vitamins and minerals only are doing it for me. They're optimizing my mind and my body so I could be the best that I can be. So that's my word.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool word. Pretty cool word. Yeah. John, so knowing what you know now about the nutrition, the lifestyle, if you can give an advice to someone who's just starting, maybe they had a similar issue like you, like a chronic back pain issue, and they want to improve their health, but they're super skeptical about this whole lifestyle. They think they're going to get a heart attack sometimes in the future. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to check out Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Sean Baker, Sally K. Norton's book. I would refer them to some influencers and some reading material if they are searching for the answers and are looking for ways to improve their life. They can pick and find out within that and they can decide what they believe is true. They'll start to see a common denominator thread that this is healthy. There's a lot of myths to be broken. There's a lot of misinformation that we all had drummed into us. And so it's only natural that a person is apprehensive first starting this. So I can't tell you how many people, when I have a conversation, it's just a matter of time. What about your cholesterol? What about saturated fats? How is your blood pressure? All the things that we have been taught to fear when we eat meat. And we have to debunk all of those little by little. So I tell people, unless they have a specific question that they want to ask me and I happen to know the answer, I'll first say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. This is not medical advice, but this is what I learned. And this is what works for me and a lot of people that I know, so that it doesn't sound like I'm preaching to somebody saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. That never works. The person has to first want to find the answer, and then they have to make the decision on their own based on the information that they're reading or hearing. And that's the best way for someone to learn. And they will find the answer. The teacher appears when the student is looking.
That's a great advice. Yeah. John, what about for carnivores who have been carnivore for over a year? Let's say the weight's starting to creep back in, and maybe they're experiencing oxalate dumping and they're not aware, or maybe they're just like guesstimating, specific way of cooking, or maybe they don't know about like how much butter or fat they should consume, but they're having some issue like weight gain. What would you tell them?
If it's plateaus or actual weight gains, plateaus are absolutely normal. The body senses that changes have been made, and it stops the weight loss and holds it for a while to see if you're healthy. And it sometimes is weeks, sometimes it's months, but eventually it starts up again. And the fat, if the person has to lose fat because they're obese, the fat loss will absolutely continue to come off if they're eating properly and they're moving. Exercise is important, and getting good sleep. If sleep is not being optimized, that is huge. Our cortisol, our stress hormones go up when we don't get enough sleep. People can become insulin resistant just because they don't get enough sleep. And that's not the food they put in their mouth. It's the sleep. So it's very underrated, sleep. Managing stress. You could have sleep and eat right and have the most stressful, horrible job that you take personally. It's going to do the same thing. All right. Your glucose is going to go up because your cortisol is going up because your stress is up. You have to learn how to manage stress. You have to learn to turn it off and go to sleep and let your body heal. And plateaus are normal. And don't go by the number on the scale. The scale measures gravity. That's it. There's so many things involved in gravity. Instead, how do your clothes fit? If you want to take a tape measure and start a chart, measure your biceps, your forearms, your waist, your hips, and then do that every week and see the numbers change. And maybe the scale didn't change at all, which means your body, you're not really stalled. Your body is redistributing. The muscle's growing, the fat is losing, muscle weighs more than fat, your bone is becoming more dense, the fascia, the tendons are getting stronger. All of that is gravity. All of that weighs differently on the scale. Water retention, bowel movements, so many things affect that. So if a person thinks they're not losing weight, they need to understand what the body is going through. The body is going through a massive healing from within, and it takes time. It took time to get unhealthy and obese if you're overweight, and it's going to take time to get back to health and into a lean, healthy shape. Somebody mentioned to me, it's the forest analogy. If you walk 5 miles into the forest, you got to walk 5 miles to get back out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like, I'm one of those people who destroyed my health, so I'm thinking like a long way for me to get back to probably my optimal self. But yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. Like when it comes to carnivore, who had been, carnivore for some time and experiencing some issues. John, my last question to you about your future perspective. How do you see carnivore in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see it being in a good light, the bad, maybe a combination? A good meaning, we'll see more people talking about it because they're seeing a lot of healing, people curing their MS, and other diseases. And then at the same time, we might see more censorship in the media. Maybe the meat prices are going to go up high. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's going to go in a positive direction. We have the Healing Humanity movie, which is out now and is being screened in different cities. It's going to be in Orlando in a week or two near me. And that gets the message out, and people are sharing that. The cholesterol code came out. I don't know if you're familiar with that, with Dave Feldman and lean mass hyperresponders. And that addresses that big question about cholesterol, what it is, and is high LDL really that dangerous if you have low carbohydrates and sugar coming in. We're having more of this media out there answering questions, debunking the myths that we've believed for so many decades, that I see it going in a positive direction. I see more carnivores. Not to get political, but the Health and Human Services Secretary I think he's a carnivore. So in the government, there are some people high up who are promoting eating meat. It's momentum in the positive direction so far. So I'm assuming it's going to, if I look at a chart and a graph, it's going to continue to go up. And that's my hope. Now, will they censor it? They haven't so far. I don't see that happening. Meat prices, Lord only knows. Look at the eggs. When the eggs went way up to $5 to $10 and $11 a dozen, and now they're all the way down to $2 a dozen. So maybe the meat will do that too. Maybe we'll subsidize farmers properly for cattlemen. I don't know about all the variables, but I foresee everybody telling their stories and more of us out there explaining it, I see it going in a positive direction, and more people learning. Even if they don't become a carnivore, they're going to learn to eat more whole foods and less ultra processed foods. And that's a win. Like the new food pyramid goes in that direction a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that documentary about the healing humanity
Yeah.
actually, because I've seen some updates, with the YouTube feed, the algorithm like showing it. So I'm seeing Terry's post about it too. So yeah. John, if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
Carnivore Teacher Alpha on YouTube. Just type a message in one of my comments. I write everybody back. The same can be said for Facebook and X, Threads, and LinkedIn. That's where, and then my email address is teachercarnivore@gmail.com. Teacher Carnivore. If they want to send me an email. I love talking to people and answering questions. Because as a teacher, that's kind of the completion. It's like the end game. It's not just explaining facts. I get to answer questions, and people have a lot of questions. And they're so unique and different. I'm on Amazon with my 3 books, if I can promote those while I'm on here. My first one's called The Carnivore Teacher. A little paperback, explains just about being a carnivore. Then I did one on all the ultra-processed food called Processed to Death. That is on Amazon in paperback, hardback, Kindle, and in my own voice. I recorded the Audible, if you're an Audible person. This last one is called Beyond Oxalates. I break down every single plant toxin. And then if you don't want to buy the book, my Audibles are on my YouTube channel every Wednesday. Today one came out on furocoumarins. Each Wednesday there's a different chapter. So you can learn about that. And the one I'm working on now is seed oils. And my next book is all about seed oils. So you can go on Amazon and find those. And I'm happy to talk with anybody. I'm retired. I have the time. And I enjoy this. I enjoy connecting with people.
John, this is excellent. I'm going to make sure to post all your contacts in the description, and including those 3 books, so people can reach you and buy your book. John, thank you so much again for taking the time to join me. I really enjoyed listening to your story and your carnivore experience. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on, Joseph. I enjoyed this.